welcome to this little tutorial. I've had a workshop last week and a lot of people asked me like, hey, you know what, how do we remove the strobe or an item that's in the frame and you don't want to have it in the frame? Now there are different ways. I'm gonna show you how I paint the thingy that's in the way, in this case a strobe, out of the image. Keep in mind it works in this specific scenario. If you have certain lines, certain textures and stuff, it's an entire different way to go with it. But for this, I'm just gonna jump straight into Lightroom, show you the image I'm gonna retouch, and then I'm gonna put this one into Photoshop, where I will take you step by step through the process of removing this strobe. Keep in mind, I'm using this little Wacom pen. Little, it's not so little because I got a big one, but it makes life a whole lot easier. I'm not sponsored by anything, but I've been using Wacom since the beginning, and I have to say, the moment I started to using these pens, my life and speed changed entirely into Photoshop, in retouching in general, because people always say like, yeah, you know, it's hard to get a hang of these and to know how to work with it. I always tell them like, put your mouse away for like 2 weeks, just use this. You will be cursing and messing things up, but after 2 weeks there's no way you're gonna go back to the mouse. So yeah, that's the way I feel it. So if you give me a mouse and do retouching in Photoshop, or even one step further, which is with a touchpad on a tablet or on a PC, it's like, it doesn't work for me. So let's jump straight into my big screen. For you it won't be a big screen, but yeah, you know what I mean. So you see the image I'm gonna retouch. Now we got some other images, but just for the sake of showing you things, the model was on the floor on this side. It was a pretty cloudy day, but I'm gonna show you how I remove the strobe out of the image. So I'm gonna export this image into Photoshop. So I'm gonna go to edit in Adobe Photoshop. If everything works fine, it opens it up. There we go. And then when I remove this, I always make a blank layer. So I'm gonna first go to full screen by hitting the letter F on the keyboard. And then I'm gonna make a blank layer. You can do it below here on the right hand side, or you can go to layer, new, and then layer. Now what I'm gonna do is take a normal brush. The shortcut key for this is the letter B, so the brush, and I'm gonna take a pretty big brush, a round brush, so a normal brush, a general brush, with a flow of like 10%. Let's go with 10% flow. Flow lets you build up the effect when using a mouse or a pen. So if you hold down Alt, you get this little eyedropper icon. Like if I zoom in and I hold Alt, I take that color, you see my color change to another color. Like if I'm coloring now, you can see that I'm putting a little bit of this beige tint on top of the carpet. I'm gonna undo it. There we go. So now when we know that this samples a color, if for instance we got this and that color, the way to blend these two is by mixing them together. So hold down Alt, just click on this side, just paint slightly over it, build it up. Don't go immediately with a brush of like 100%, because that would be, so hold down Alt, sample that color, and just paint over it. Now I don't see it changing really quick, so I'm gonna put a little bit more flow into it. I'm not sure what is happening because we don't see anything changing. Okay, I found the problem I have now. The opacity of the layer is set to 10%. So I'm gonna undo everything again, delete everything. So Control Command A to select all, and then just hit delete on the keyboard. So you see, errors happens to everyone. So hold down Alt, sample that one, go back to a flow of 10%, and then just start slowly painting over it. Sample again, paint over it, sample this color, paint over it, sample that color, because it's not just one color, there's a gradient going on. So you want to sample the color that is next to it. Now I'm gonna change my direction a little bit that way. There we go. Now we got a pretty hard edge on that side, so I'm gonna right click and change my hardness to like 60. Sample that color or sample this color and then just start painting upwards. Now if this direction is a hard direction, by holding down the R key, the R from rotate, this little icon, you can rotate the image any way you want. Just keep in mind it's just a visual turning, it's not like a permanent turning. So when I push escape on the keyboard, it just resets it back to the way it was. So now I'm gonna build this further up, so hold down Alt, sample and paint, Alt, sample and paint, Alt, sample that color, sample that color. Now again, this works for the wall, it will not work for the concrete floor. So now you see you got some really funky smudges going on. Well, there's a way to fix this. So I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna make it a big brush, but my hardness I'm gonna lower it down again. So this time I'm gonna sample this one again. I'm just gonna slightly paint over it. There we go. If I mess up, I'm not, that's too much. So the flow of 10 is too much, so I'm gonna go even lower to like 5%ish. Now I'm not worried about me painting on the floor. I'm just sampling, painting slowly, slightly. And you see that in the end everything is gone. Now we've painted on the floor, so we're just gonna use an eraser and just erase those things out of it. There we go. So you see it's not that big of a difference. I mean, it's not that big of a process to correct these things. Now the part on the bottom, that's a different story. I'm gonna create the blank layer. And this time we will be using the clone stamp. So this copies a certain part where you sample from and pastes it over the area you want to remove. So in this case I want to remove this tripod part. So I'm gonna hold down Alt and just gonna try to align the lines from both of them. Now as you can see, with low flow, again from 10%, you just build it up slightly. Don't go with a flow of 100 because then it will look funky. And always respect the lines you have on the image. So don't start crossing lines, all those things. Just try to respect the lines you have. Now when we zoom out, you see that there is still a little bit of a color shift in there because we had a shadow here. Now what we can do is create a curved layer on top of that, darken it a bit, like a lot apparently, and then just with a soft brush with a flow of 1%, darken it. Now another quick way to fix this again is to just take a brush, turn it around, and just paste over it. But now I'm using a flow of 1, I want to have a little bit more control. There we go. That's more interesting. So it's just a matter of sample and paint. Like for the floor we can do the same. And now you should sample this dark part, go over it, sample the brighter part and paint that up until there with the clone stamp. But it's just to give you an idea about what is possible when the backdrop is like, yeah, when there's nothing fancy going on, you don't have a lot of texture going on. You see, you just take the paintbrush, paint over it, and that's it. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is that with this technique, you can already see, I'm not sure if you can see it on the video, but there is banding going on. Now, how do we avoid banding? We avoid banding by using noise. So I'm gonna create a new layer, fill this layer by going to edit, fill this up with 50% gray, mode soft light, change it again to soft light, and then I'm gonna put noise on top of it. So filter noise, add noise. I'm gonna zoom in on my image because I want to see how much noise I'm actually putting on there. And like 5, make sure monochromatic is tapped on, checked on, because otherwise you will introduce color noise in the image and you don't want that. And then uniform and amount, it depends. You take the amount that is necessary to have this part come across with that part. So for instance, the 5-ish we had in the beginning, 5, yeah, something like that. And then I'm gonna put a layer mask on top of it, and then I'm gonna paint it in with a brush 100%, and I'm gonna just paint it in on this part so that the noise we introduce now compared to the wall we had. So this is the noise. This is the part where the noise is. This is the part where the original wall is. So I'm gonna lower the noise a bit. And there we have it. No more banding, a nice edge. So yeah, this is the before and the after. So nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. So before and after. Now, this is just a quick tutorial. If you take your time and go through the entire process, you will see that you can change it up, make it a little bit more perfect, because the edge here is a little bit messy. But so you have the idea now how you can remove a strobe or anything from an entire image. So yeah, that's the quick tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it, and then I'll see you for the next one next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. So also cleaning this is part of the studio life, so you can see the bucket standing right there. So yesterday evening we had a shoot with Tatiana, and well, I'm gonna see if I can show you how the floor is actually looking. You can already see one grease spot going on the floor. You see, this is all oily. So when you're shooting with oil, keep in mind to have a cleaning cloth next by, because it is a mess. Let me change the direction. You can see my own shadow, but yeah, it's a mess. So yeah, cleaning time, and then we will be moving the backdrop away again. You can see the octa behind me. A V flat on that side. The bucket I'm gonna clean everything with. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, different point of view. So just finished cleaning it up a bit. You can see when I'm going up. Let's see. So we've cleaned those two compartments. Now I'm in the makeup part. Makeup studio kind of thingy, storage. So yeah, just clean the grease out of everything. Now I still have to clean up the makeup table. You've just witnessed a little quick time lapse from me cleaning. So it's not always fun. Cleaning also has to be done. So yeah, tonight I've got a shoot with the girl couple, Rani and Jolien. So we will be shooting more couples this year, and the idea is to do some promotional images for our couple romantic shoots this year, actually, not next year, this year. So yeah, that's it for now. Boo, 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 boo.